Hi, in this video tutorial we'll cover the assignments in Unit 2 Activity 4. And in the content of this activity we covered point of view and theme, which were the last two story elements that we're covering in this unit. And you will have to answer some questions based on point of view and theme in the assignments on this page. But we're going to go beyond that. And as you'll see, the assignments in this activity are going to summarize and review everything in Unit 2, which will hopefully help you prepare for the midterm test. And so if we take a look, assignment number 1 says story elements questions. And so what you're going to be asked to do is to read a short story called The Test of Friendship. And then you have two choices here when you read it. You can read it as a PDF file, and if you do that, it'll take you to another web page and it'll look like this. So it's not a very long story. It fits all on one page here. If you prefer, you can also download it as a Microsoft Word version. And if you do that, it'll look like this right here. It's the exact same story. It just depends on you whether you'd rather read it online or whether you'd rather download your own copy on Microsoft Word. So just to give you a general idea, the story is about a teenager. If you haven't noticed, all of the short stories in this unit have been about children and teenagers. That's kind of the theme for all of the stories that we cover in this unit is again childhood and teenage years. So we're going to look at another teenager here, and this particular teenager in the test of friendship, his name's going to be Damien. And he's worried about going back to school after he's had a terrible summer. And so while you read the story, I'd like you to focus on the point of view and the theme, because that's what we covered in this activity. So what point of view or what type of point of view do you think is being used in this story? Is it first person? Is it third person observant or third person omniscient? And how do you know that? And then in terms of themes, think about the messages that are being presented in this story. What is the author challenging you as the reader to think about? Is there a message or a lesson that you can learn? Okay. So again, that's our focus, but we're going to go beyond point of view and theme. As you'll see here, I'm going to ask you at least one question on each one of the story elements that we covered in Unit 2. So after you read the story, The Test of Friendship, answer these 6 questions. And if you want, you can download the questions again as a Microsoft Word document. And if you do, they'll look like this. But I know most of you probably are using Google Docs, so as usual, you can just copy and paste the questions and put them into a Google Doc and answer them that way. But just to do a quick run through, the first question is going to be a character question, and it's going to ask you to describe Damien, who's the main character in the story. I'd like you to include 2 character traits for him and provide specific examples from the story to support each trait. So whatever you want to say about him in terms of a character trait. So it could be something physical, something related to his personality, a belief or a value that he has. See if you can come up with 2 traits and then prove them with examples in the story. Secondly, I'd like you to identify 2 different locations in the story. I would argue that there's at least 3 different locations. The story moves around from the beginning to the end. It's a short story, but the characters still have a chance to move around. So I'd like you to identify at least 2 locations, and then I'd like you to tell me the month of the year that the story takes place in. And they won't actually say the month directly in the story, but I want you to figure it out on your own and explain how you know, because if you read this story properly, you should be able to determine what month of the year it is. Okay, these 2 questions, 2 and 3, are setting questions. They're about location and time period. Number 4, we have a plot question. I'm going to ask you to identify 2 types of conflict in the story. So do you see character versus character? Do you see character versus self? What types of conflicts do you see? See if you can identify at least 2, and then provide a specific example to support each conflict. So if you say that there's character versus character, give me an example. Okay. Fifth question, we get to point of view, which is one of our main topics for this particular activity. So I'd like you to tell me what type of point of view is used in the story. Explain how you know and include a direct quotation from the story as evidence. So prove to me that you know the point of view. So again, is it first person? Is it third person observant? Is it third person omniscient? Okay, which one of the three, and then prove it. And then number 6, it says identify 2 themes in the story. So give me 2 lessons or messages that are presented in the story. Remember, in a theme, you're not providing character names or specific details from the story. You're going beyond the story to identify specific lessons or messages that you can take out of the story. Again, if you're not quite sure about what a theme is, because sometimes it gets confused for a subject, go back into the content of this activity and review the explanation of theme. After you've identified the 2 themes, I'd like you to give me specific examples to support each theme. So go back into the story and pull out an example that proves that those themes exist in the story. And once you're done your story element questions, as always, you submit them to the Dropbox here. Okay. Our second assignment is our Unit 2 review. So you already have a Unit 1 review that we did at the ending of Unit 1, and now we're doing Unit 2. And what I would say is if you put these 2 reviews together, you have a pretty good study guide for your midterm test. Okay. So if you download the review sheet, it looks like this right here. And so we'll review the grammar that we did in Unit 2. So you've got spelling and capitalization. You've got subjects, predicates, and end of sentence punctuation. You've got sentence fragments and run-ons, and you've got commas and apostrophes. So that's all of the different grammar topics we covered throughout Unit 2. And then we also, of course, covered story elements. So I'm going to ask you to go back through the content in Unit 2 and make sure that you understand and can explain the different story elements. So we've got explain the 4 types of character traits. Explain or tell me what is a character sketch. Of course, you wrote a character sketch for me in Unit 2, Activity 1. I'd like you to explain the 5 parts of a plot structure, so from exposition to resolution. I'd like you to explain the difference between external and internal conflict. I'd like you to briefly explain the 4 different types of conflict. I'd like you to explain the 3 parts of setting, place, time, and environment. And then I separated atmosphere and mood, which was part setting as well too. I'd like you to tell me what is atmosphere, what is mood, and how do they work together in a story. And then in terms of what we covered in this particular activity, I'd like you to be able to explain the 3 different types of point of view. And I'd like you to be able to explain the difference between a subject and a theme. If you answer these questions, and these questions are not being graded, although you can submit them to the Dropbox if you want, and I'll give you feedback. But if you answer these questions, you should be making your own study notes for the midterm, and then again, you can use them when we get to the final exam as well too. Okay. If you have trouble downloading the Unit 2 review, it is a Microsoft Word document, and if you can't get it to open on your particular computer or laptop, let me know and I can send it to you in another form. So just send me just send me an email and I can send it to you as a Google Doc or in another form. And that's it. If you have any questions about these 2 activities, please let me know.